Toronto, a city that never sleeps, unless you count the dead, especially in Riverdale Park after dark. 6 friends, high school seniors, dared to enter its shadows. Jake, the leader, Lisa, the voice of reason, Ben, the scared one, Emily, the adventurous one, Chris, the jokester, and Maya, the quiet observer. They thought they knew Riverdale Park, every path, every bench, every shadow. But tonight the shadows knew them. They were about to learn that some secrets are best left buried. Underneath the whispering leaves and the watchful stars, something waited. Riverdale Park, a place of picnics and laughter during the day. Families gather here, spreading out their blankets, sharing meals, and creating memories. Children run around, their laughter filling the air, while couples stroll hand in hand, enjoying the serene beauty of the park. The sun casts a warm glow, making everything seem perfect and idyllic. But as the sun sets and darkness envelops the park, it transforms. The once lively and cheerful place becomes a hunting ground for nightmares after dark. The shadows grow longer, and the air becomes thick with an eerie silence. The trees, which provided shade and comfort during the day, now seem to whisper secrets and hide unseen dangers. The air grew colder as they entered the park. The fog began to roll in, wrapping around them like a ghostly shroud. Their footsteps echoed on the path, each step amplifying the sense of foreboding. They could feel the weight of the darkness pressing down on them, making every sound seem louder, every shadow more menacing. They followed the winding path, their laughter echoing through the trees. But their laughter was different now, tinged with nervousness and uncertainty. The path seemed to twist and turn endlessly, leading them deeper into the heart of the park. The trees loomed overhead, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The old bridge creaked under their weight. Each step they took made the wooden planks groan and protest, as if warning them to turn back. The bridge swayed slightly, adding to the sense of unease. Below, the water of the Dawn River rushed past, its dark surface reflecting the city lights in a distorted, almost sinister way. Below, the Dawn River rushed past, its dark water reflecting the city lights. The river seemed to move with a life of its own, whispering secrets to those who dared to listen. The city lights, which once seemed so bright and welcoming, now cast eerie reflections on the water, making it look like a portal to another world. They passed the empty playground, the swings swaying slightly in the breeze. The playground, which was once filled with the joyful sounds of children playing, now stood silent and abandoned. The swings moved back and forth as if pushed by invisible hands. The sight sent a shiver down their spines, reminding them of the stories they had heard about the park at night. A chill wind blew through the trees, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else, something metallic, something rotten. The wind seemed to whisper in their ears, filling their minds with dark thoughts and fears. The scent grew stronger, making them feel nauseous and uneasy. They knew they were not alone in the park, but they couldn't see who or what was watching them. Do you guys ever feel like we're being watched? The question hung in the air, heavy with fear and uncertainty. They looked around, their eyes searching the darkness for any sign of movement. The feeling of being watched grew stronger, making their hearts race and their palms sweat. She asked, her voice tight. Her eyes darted around, trying to pierce the darkness. The others nodded, their faces pale and tense. They could feel the presence of something unseen, something that was watching their every move. The park, once a place of joy and laughter, had become a place of fear and dread. They reached their usual spot, a small clearing hidden among the trees. A single streetlight cast an eerie glow. Jake pulled out a joint, They passed it around, inhaling deeply. The smoke curled up into the night sky, a beacon in the darkness. The laughter returned, fear forgotten, for now. "You sure this stuff is safe, Jake?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Relax, dude, it's just weed. Live a little." But even as he spoke, a shiver ran down his spine. He felt a pair of eyes on them, watching, waiting. A twig snapped. The sound echoed through the dense forest, breaking the eerie silence that had settled over the group like a heavy fog. Silence fell over the group. Each of them held their breath, straining to hear any other sounds that might follow. The laughter died in their throats. What had been a night of fun and games now felt like a scene from a horror movie. What was that? The question hung in the air, unanswered, as everyone exchanged nervous glances. Emily whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Her voice was barely audible, but it carried the weight of her terror. "Probably just a squirrel." The attempt to rationalize the noise did little to ease the tension. Carlos said, trying to sound brave, but his voice shook. Another snap, closer this time. The forest seemed to close in around them, the darkness becoming almost tangible. They all turned towards the sound. Their eyes searched the shadows, trying to pierce the inky blackness that surrounded them. Something moved in the shadows. It was quick, almost imperceptible, but enough to send a shiver down their spines. A tall, shadowy figure emerged from the trees. It moved with an unnatural grace, its presence both mesmerizing and terrifying. It was tall and thin, its limbs unnaturally long. The figure seemed to stretch and bend in ways that defied human anatomy. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness. They were like burning coals, piercing through the night and into the souls of the onlookers. A low growl rumbled from its throat. Jake dropped the joint. His hands trembled as he backed away, his mind racing with fear and confusion. It fell to the ground, the glowing embers like dying fireflies. The small flickering lights were the only source of warmth in the chilling night. The group huddled together, their fear palpable. They knew they had to make a decision, stay and face whatever was out there, or run and hope to escape the unknown terror lurking in the dark. Someone fumbled for a flashlight, the beam of light cutting through the darkness but revealing nothing. The forest seemed to swallow the light, leaving them in an abyss of uncertainty. Their faces were masks of terror, eyes wide and unblinking. The presence in the dark was no longer just a figment of their imagination. It was real, and it was watching them. "Run!" Jake screamed loudly. They scrambled to their feet, their hearts pounding in their chests. The figure lunged, its claws outstretched menacingly. It missed Jake by inches. They ran, through the trees, over the bridge, past the playground. The figure was right behind them, its footsteps heavy, its breathing ragged. They could hear its growls echoing behind them. Branches tore at their clothes, their lungs burned, but they didn't dare slow down. Fear lent them speed. They had to escape the nightmare. They had to survive the night no matter what. They sprinted out of the park, into the city streets. The bright lights and the sound of traffic were a shock after the darkness and silence of the park. They didn't stop running, not until they reached Lisa's house. They huddled together on her porch, gasping for breath, their bodies trembling. Lisa fumbled with her keys, finally managing to unlock the door. They stumbled inside, slamming the door shut behind them. They leaned against the wall, listening for any sound of pursuit. Silence. They were safe, for now. The friends vowed never to speak of that night again. But the memory lingered. It was a night that had etched itself into their minds, a night that had changed everything. They had ventured into Riverdale Park, thinking it would be just another adventure. but what they encountered was beyond their wildest nightmares. In their nightmares, they still heard the heavy footsteps. The sound was unmistakable, a slow, deliberate thud that echoed through the silence of the night. Each step seemed to get closer, reverberating in their minds long after they had woken up. They still saw the red eyes glowing in the dark. Those eyes, filled with a malevolent intelligence, seemed to pierce through the darkness, watching their every move. It was as if the creature could see into their very souls, feeding on their fear. And sometimes, when they were alone, they thought they saw a shadow moving at the edge of their vision. A fleeting glimpse of something that shouldn't be there, a reminder that they were never truly alone. The shadow was always lurking just out of sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. A tall, thin shadow with unnaturally long limbs. Its movements were unnatural, almost otherworldly, as if it didn't belong in this world. The sight of it sent chills down their spines, a constant reminder of the terror they had faced. The night they were hunted in Riverdale Park had changed them. They were no longer the carefree teenagers they once were. The experience had left them scarred, both physically and emotionally. They had seen things that no one should ever have to see, and it had left a mark on their souls. They knew, deep down, that they weren't safe. Not really. The creature was still out there, somewhere, waiting for the right moment to strike again. They could feel its presence, a constant, looming threat that hung over them like a dark cloud. The creature was still out there, waiting, watching. It was patient, biding its time, knowing that eventually they would let their guard down, and when they did, it would be ready to strike, and one day it would come for them again. They could only hope that when that day came, they would be ready. But deep down, they knew that no amount of preparation could ever truly prepare them for the horror that awaited.